Recording. Okay, guys, sorry, my computer died. I thought we had the electrical cord plugged in. But all right, I'm getting Siri in the pose. It'll just take me a few more minutes. We're still working things out, but I think we're just about there. So, I guess I didn't really need to start, but there are things I'm considering. This is going to be a vertical pose. There's a lot of those issues in terms of negative shapes and overlapping that we just learned about and discussed in the silhouette exercise. So I think this is quite lovely. All right, I'm going to set up my easel over here, and I will be with you all in a minute to talk more about how I'm going to start that. And let's, if you can remember that, Siri, you can relax for just a second. Just
how would you feel like my face?
Huh?
Like, can I wear my glasses?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And then if you can take them off.
Yeah, I'll probably record some semblance of your glasses and your mask, but I probably won't get to a portrait session with you.
Ever?
Oh, no, not for.
Oh, okay.
No, we will. I've always had this idea that maybe some model would let me draw on their face.
Oh my gosh, that is me.
Would you let me draw
yeah,
on your face?
Yeah.
Okay. If you've got some kind of face paint pen, I mean, I can too. I don't know what you're comfortable with drawing, but I've always wanted to actually draw the planes of the face.
I feel like an eyeliner pencil would do it.
That's what I would be inclined to, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. Did you hear that, guys? That's going to be really exciting. I've always wanted to do that.
What is this thing Nathan was resting on? Is that Nathan?
This model?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Nathan.
Yeah. And what is that bar he does?
We used to have a model bar that fits in right here.
And it's just,
Yeah, I'll put it back up. I'm sure we could get some great poses with you in that. And kind of, on our long drawing, I'm probably going to give you a staff.
fun.
Yeah. We have a pose in mind. All right, well, that's a little too close for me. And I want to be closer to the window so everybody can see.
This is actually the most comfortable pose we've done.
Is it? I know, I try and, there's a meaning in the middle. I want beautiful, interesting poses, but sometimes, it becomes even more difficult. It's really challenging and hard and uncomfortable.
And it also is the one that lends least to me wanting to fall asleep.
Yeah.
So like it's perfect.
It's a perfect mix of the worlds. Yeah, and you look beautiful. You've got a lovely, strong curve right there, which we will see with gesture in just a second. So this is very important to me, you guys. Setting up for the drawing, because every time I do, I'm really thinking about my composition as a whole as early on as I can. So I encourage you all, whenever you have decided on your subject for the day, to spend a little time thinking about where it is you're drawing from, how you're setting things up, in terms of making everything as easy as possible for you guys. Like, spend a little time getting this guy right. As if I start out crooked, my whole drawing might be crooked. Okay. Okay. All right, and now, if I go a little further back, I'm gonna raise you guys up. Okay. Great, and you can See Siri, let's go. And if I'm drawing here, you'll be able to see when I go back.
I can see it. I just can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Is it because I'm being quiet? If I talk loud, can you hear me, John A?
I still can't hear you.
Can you hear me, Mike?
No.
No? All right, hold on. Why would I?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, how about now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. I'll turn it up. I've never been called a quiet person, but it is a little hard with this mask, I think, to project all the time. But I will do my best. If you can ever not hear me or I'm not being clear, just let me know, okay, guys? All right. So I'm starting, and I can zoom. I'll zoom in with you guys pretty frequently. All right. So focuses and let's see. You've been in there. We'll say a good 10 minutes already. Can we do 15 in this, and then we'll?
I feel like a minute's fine.
Okay. Can we do 20 then?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do 20. It's 1:54. All right. You guys can see. Again, determining your picture plane from the get-go is very important to me. We always want to be considering this perceived cube of air that we're trying to draw. When I discuss the picture plane, we're thinking about picture plane, and when I say the picture cube, we're thinking about the perceived three-dimensional space. If this was a window, right? Inherently dynamic forces within this picture plane, two strong diagonals. Okay, and then there's all of these have relationships to each other, right? They all have relationships, like the golden rule. But it's just part of what our brain can assess easily when we're working on a rectilinear format. You know, we feel these diagonals, we feel verticals, and we feel middles. So keeping those things in mind as you are beginning to develop your composition, I think is super important. Okay, so this is the pose with Siri. It's a little different from my perspective, obviously, because this camera is different than my eyeballs. So I mostly want to have you guys looking at my drawing as best we can. This, okay, that's pretty good, I think. Okay, all right. So I'm starting. And I'm just going to keep talking about what I think as I'm making drawings like this. So the thing that strikes me most about this pose is this long diagonal of this leg, right? She's on this plane for me, so I want to put that leg somewhere along this diagonal. All right, if I hold up my L7s, I can get a sense that that diagonal will meet in the middle, and then there's a very strong vertical. So here is my main axis of movement line. That little, do this 695, lift this. No, that's not going to work. I have to be able to pull this down and show you guys clearly, so. But that's that far leg to that middle waist, torso, and that little twist. So I captured the whole pose as quickly as I could with one line. I want to give myself a little room on this side, because I feel that the pose doesn't move any further from over here. Feel, so hand, the head is somewhere right here. I don't want that head to get too close. Okay, can we see? God, I'm gonna have to devise a better way so I can show you guys this in a quicker. I'll bring some clips next time. But look here. This is just what I've got so far. All right, her hips. The trouble with this pose, and again, you guys, I'm forcing y'all to contain a whole figure within a picture plane because that's very hard. This foot is going to be what wants to escape from me, right? Because I have this leg, and it's just the case if you guys have ever drawn figures and you know hands and feet and sometimes heads escape you. So I want to keep this kind of troublesome foot within my control. You can see that. So it's just a simple, loose skeletal framework. So, I want to think about that horsey she's on. My horsey will go off the picture plane. You guys can see. You guys will notice. You'll notice that my horsey is pretty much dead with the center line. That's just a nice compositional thing. My knee is moving through. And big important thing to do, take a step back. That's why it's good to draw standing. I don't stand sometimes in this class for demo purposes, but so I can feel that medial line of that abdomen. I'm thinking about her pelvic bone and how it's sitting. Here's a good lyrical movement of that thigh. A little too exaggerated. See, there's a mistake. Let's move that guy forward. And move this guy forward. So you can see the gesture can really work out a bunch of problems. Might be a little close. I don't like, sometimes if this foot or something gets too close to the perimeter, I find it shallows the space out a little bit. So before my foot gets away from me too much, I kind of want to lock it into place there so that I'm not feeling too tight to my borders. Curve of her rib cage. Feeling that. So not every line I make stays in this drawing, but they help me move towards a sense of correct placement. with, again, like I say, minimal artistic investment. Right, so you guys have seen how I did that. Here's a close-up. Still very scribbly, but I'm just trying to get a sense of the dynamic movements. I'll take a big step back. A little bit more elbow. Feel her pectoral being pulled up. Bending the wrist. That foot I have is a little too far down. So look, wow, I can erase it so easily. And I'm not committed to being perfect right off the bat. Trying to assess angles. Get that knee turned right. Okay, so as far as gestural framework, I would probably not proceed much further. And I'm gonna go into a semblance of our silhouette exercise. Assessing values from life with our model right now. You can see the model stand is very light. The light hitting the lighter side of her flesh is very light. Her mask is light. But then a lot of other stuff within that picture frame is very dark. So I can really do a lot of this with reductive methods. And I like to use reductive methods early on because I think it does create a sense of atmosphere. So, kind of really get myself oriented. I'm going to be a little selective with the lines I just made gesturally. And why not? I'm just going to color her all in, like she's all in shadow for now. Because I'll go back and assess where light is hitting her. And also, that means I want to start building up my atmosphere. So I have a dark plane of my horsey. Little plane, that's probably about right. This guy. I know there's some light hitting it right there. We'll get back to it. Bottom half of my horsey. Some darkness, little darkness over here. Shadow from the ground. I try and get shadows once I get a semblance of where the figure is going to be, even though I know it will change. I want to get an idea of shadows. Very cool shadow on the floor from her leg. And something I think, because my light source is over on this side, can you see me? Over on that side, I will often just do a quick wash of value on the opposite side. And that is to just begin to develop my atmosphere. Just trying to capture the feeling that a light source is over here, and this part of the classroom is getting darker. And I like to, let's see, the model stand, what can I do? Okay, I have a great thing to show you guys. So I want to create a sense of space with Siri. And I am looking at the model stand right now, and behind her knee, I see the corner of the model stand. I pull it this way. So, hold on, let me darken it and you guys will see clearly. So, I just made that little corner of the model stand on the back side behind Siri, behind her knee, and just making that little line which carries underneath the horsey below Siri creates that sense of space. Really, with the model stand, you can think of the model stand as the bottom of your space cube, right? You can imagine if you were drawing a cube in space, that model stand would in fact be the bottom of your cube. It doesn't always have to be, but it is a helpful trick for spatial relationships. And you can see already how I'm starting to get a sense of light and atmosphere. Ooh, it just got cloudy. Can you all see me still? Okay, you can. All right, so I've got my darks in, right? I've colored in Siri all the way, because why not? I'm gonna go in with my eraser now. So in beginning figure drawing, like I've said, I think it's very helpful and important to set yourself up with dramatic light. You'll notice, if you guys follow any of those drawing schools where they're focusing a lot on this, you'll notice most of their work is in a very contrasted, high light, high shadow situation, just like we do in class. And it helps you assess form. When you're first learning about human form, before you have all those forms committed to memory, you need to learn how light strikes those. So again, I'm not even being perfect, can you see? But I just removed some material on Siri's lower leg. It's a little long. Let's give her some more volume over here. And you can see the charcoal is pulling up in some areas. I know that's frustrating, you guys. You just have to work it in. You can use your rag a lot. So I'm taking a big step back and feeling like I need to scoot this guy down a little. But I'm jumping off from our silhouette exercise we just did this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me. And now I am assessing where light is striking her. Let's see. 3 more minutes, okay? Okay. She's got a little light in her abdomen, this arm, the front of this arm, a little bit on that back deltoid, her shoulder muscle. Certainly a good bit on her mask right there. I want to get a sense of the darkness of her hair. Just because those big shapes will help you decipher your form. And just cleaning the back. Alrighty, so I'm gonna mark you real quick. See, you can get a sense of where that feels, and this is like one little, you're on that side better. Okay, all right, take a little break. Okay, I'll zoom in, you guys. You can see where I'm at. But I've just gone and removed material where light is hitting Siri. And I just did a little bit of defining of that edge that's in shadow. She's got her mask on and a little bit hair darkness. Trying to get it at the right angle for you guys. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to keep working while Siri takes a break and just smooth some things out. So no worries. Right now I'm just working on technical stuff. When the model takes a break, or let's say your subject gets up to do something, whatever it may be, there's lots of things in your drawing you can do, kind of like maintenance, kind of just purely technical cleanup, whatever you want to call it. So right now I may just tone this backspace with a little bit more clarity. With charcoal, you have to do like a lot of massaging, a lot of working it into the paper. And that's fine, and it's beautiful, and it's lovely in a relationship with the eraser on paper. So get used to kind of moving the material around and taking it back up with your eraser. I think that's a lot of fun with charcoal. And it really helps you develop the sense of atmosphere, light, space, air. There's a good example that I just went into my form, and now I'm just going to go back and clean up that line and establish it, right? And this is why I love drawing from life, because it's this puzzle I'm trying to solve. It's this puzzle between this light shape, this dark shape, this dark shape, this medium shape. And it's something that isn't set in stone for you, so you have to figure it out. And it's just very helpful. Even if you don't become an artist that draws from life all the time, these sorts of concepts and ideas will help you when you're working from your imagination. You know, whatever it might be that you're representing or not representing. Excellent. Could you just tuck that one dreadlock behind your shoulders, dude? Looks great. Beautiful, perfect. Yeah, that one little sliver of light on your deltoid will be our guiding. So what do I think about that? I'm just talking to Siri about this little, see online, this little tiny bit of light that's hitting her shoulder, her deltoid muscle. And it's light to me because it's up against this blackish chalkboard behind her. And there's, you know, that chalkboard is making a nice horizontal, which is letting the light on her arm shine through. So I like it. I like it. I like that there is white. Let's see. I like that there is a white wall right behind that. I'm going to do that, and I'll show you why. That'll be nice for me to pull out the highlights on my hand. Other things. So as you guys are drawing from life, you have to make decisions like I just made just now. So at first, I might not have been concerned with including the chalkboard, that darkness of the chalkboard that is behind Siri, but the fact that it's going to highlight, you can see, okay? The fact that it's going to highlight her elbow and that deltoid right back here that we looked at, is why I'm choosing to include it. And, okay, so conversely, I'm leaving that white space below the chalkboard because I like how the whiteness of the wall creates form from the darkness of, you know, the shadow on her body. And okay, so conversely, the darkness of the chalkboard is creating form from the light that's hitting her arms and stuff. Now these drawings from Siri all look really funny with masks and just eye sockets. But again, I'm just working on those big value shapes. So from here, let's make that hand. Here I'm just going and looking at corrections now and trying to make more final decisions. And I'm jumping around a lot, as you guys know, I talked to you all about. It's good not to get obsessive with one detailed area. But I'm going to go now and probably start to define shapes, much like I did, or much like you guys did with your Poussin exercises. And I'm trying to keep things simple and solid. I'm not worried about fine modulations right now. Light and dark, simple but well within shapes. And again, I'm just using this blending stump to sort of massage the material into the paper. I'm not using it for blending, using it as a tool just to smooth out big values. Sometimes if you're getting a little lost on your drawing, smoothing it out will help. Let me see if I can get a little. You guys are great. Yeah. find it's best to go and smooth into shapes than trying to be very precise about keeping your line. You can just go back and reestablish your line with either your charcoal or your eraser. Oh, it's compressed. Be careful when you're using your charcoal to not get your compressed mixed with your vine. They do look very similar, and I will start using my compressed to get my darker darks. But for now, I want to hold off on that while I'm still moving stuff around. The good thing about this vine charcoal is it's very movable. Take a big step back, see how I'm doing. This lower leg feels a little small. What do I need? Probably some more knee. So I'm going through right now and just simplifying my figure into light and dark shapes. Pretty soon I'm gonna wanna probably bring in my charcoal, my compressed charcoal, because at some point you can't get any darker with your vine charcoal. So you need to find some working element to bring in some more darkness, and that compressed charcoal will do it nearly every time. But you'll notice some vine charcoals are darker than others. All your materials have their own sort of personality that you'll get more and more comfortable with. So again, you guys heard me before. I'm thinking a lot about my edges and how all of these forms are related to whatever they're overlapping. So considering my edges of these forms is very important for realism. Is an edge darker than what it's in front of, behind? If you guys have done your still lives in other drawing classes, this is very similar. I mean, this is a still life. You're working with a human figure, so it's got its own unique sets of challenges, but when it comes to representation, they should be familiar skills to you all. Don't really like that edge. I want to clean up that edge a little bit. Always with two hands, right? My eraser, my charcoal. Thinking about my silhouette exercise right now, I just deduced that that foot needs to come down because I can see this touching between the shadows. You can see I've been moving this foot to get a little more relaxation in her ankle. And what I hope this is demonstrating to you guys very clearly is that nothing is set in stone. And if you stay loose and work on these big silhouette shapes for a good while in the beginning, you'll have the best foundation to just keep refining your drawing. I'll pull this down for a little check with you guys, a close-up. All right. Thinking about silhouettes, but just adding the element of light on the flesh. Still just thinking kind of about the mask in her eye sockets against her dark hair. All right, trying to line it up. There we go. Okay. All right, I'm going to go in now, I think, with a little compressed pastel and just establish and kind of clarify some more things for me. There's the darkest dark I see on Siri right now is on her sports bra in the shadowed side. So, gonna give that a little more intense blackness. The dark shadow of her hair is a similar value, but just on the shadow side. What else is some more dark values? That little space between her arms. A little bit on her underwear where the light is not. There and on this side. So I also feel an intense darkness right by this knee. If you guys remember your egg modeling exercise, the shadow directly past where light is breaking will often be one of the darker values to look for. And I feel a darkness down by the foot. Now again, I caution everybody with compressed charcoal because it's a pretty permanent decision. This guy does not want to erase and move around quite as easily as your vine charcoal. So until you have kind of everything situated, I would hold off on your compressed. Okay, and you guys, let's see. It was easier to work on the horsey. You can see just very roughly I've added this compressed charcoal. Now I'm going to go through with my blending stomp and chamois and not blend, but just unify big values. Trying to be selective. Start. Siri, how you feeling? I did not really take a mental note of when you got in that pose. I'm sorry? Okay. Yeah, of course. Whenever that arm is getting a little tired. Let's say another 10 minutes. Does that feel about right? Okay. Yeah.
We have class tomorrow.
Yeah, the Wednesday?
Yeah.
That's fine with you, right?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. You just said to the other class, like online class, so I didn't know what you were referring to.
It's weird. So they've split the class in half, and so we're doing. I mean, we
No,
go.
that's great.
Yeah, it's a strange world we're living in right now. That's for sure. I have a TA in that class, so we'll see.
Why do you have a TA in that one?
I don't know. I think maybe because she's interested in the figure, and maybe there's not so many places for her to have a TA position with.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's probably helpful, right?
Yeah. She'll so I'll probably treat her a little differently than the other students. You know, she'll show examples and stuff. She probably, I know she's interested in anatomy, so I'm sure, have some fun together on the anatomy section.
You can also draw on my body if you ever like single out individual muscles.
That would be super fun. We should get some body paint or something one day. That would be fun. I mean, I will, one day I'll probably try and set this up and we'll go over anatomy with them like I do in class with my pointer. I might get a laser pointer.
Yeah,
Does he? Yeah. But we'll certainly go over big landmarks to look from. It's a little trying to figure out the flow of this. Trying to figure out the flow of this online stuff is a little challenging, but I think we're on a good pace. I do portrait with them when they're starting to do their self-portrait from home, so that will be a lot of fun. And sooner than later, we do need to get into some more concrete anatomy. Dark. Blackboard. And just always evaluate, trying to make your figure feel a part of its landscape as quickly as you can. It will affect how you see the whole figure. So do try and give some attention to your furniture, you know, your horsey, your chair, whatever your model or subject is existing on. Just like anybody, I can get a little wrapped up in details that I love from anatomy. And I'm always trying to check myself to go back and work expansively. Always trying to work on the whole and not get fixated on any one detail. Need one of those little handheld fans. And I'll show you guys, I'll pull it up close in just a second. Right now, I'm just cleaning up. And I know you guys obviously sitting here through the whole video at one time might be annoying if you're just watching it. But I would just play this in the background. You know, you guys are at home or at work, and I'm no video person. I don't know about editing videos. And really that is quite a lot of work. But I think you guys can play this and listen to what I say. You can certainly really pay attention to the beginning where we cover our exercises. In the greatest situation, I would want you guys to be listening to this as you are drawing from subjects at home, you know, whatever it is, you could be following along. I have recently just read, just a moment ago on break, that Benedict is mandating synchronized classes, so I will probably discuss that with you guys in more detail over email. But, you know, I want you all to treat this as a class as best as you can. So, while I do think you need to listen to the whole thing and hear what we discuss, I think you could be doing other things, hopefully your drawings during that time as well, right? Some of you I see are working right now. I think that's great. You know, I never have these classes scripted, and I always just respond very intuitively to where the group is as a whole and what things that they've learned and grasped throughout their academic career so far. Every class comes to me with different skill sets and different interests. And I think that's great. But it does make for a more organic nature in class. All right, Siri, why don't you take a little break? I think it's about that time. I will zoom in for these guys. So, up top, I'm getting more and more definite about my shapes. Hi, Mike. You have any questions, Mike? I know it looks kind of wonky, I'm sorry. But let's see, I can zoom in. You can see I'm getting more and more clear. You see there, I think there's a nice sense of light forming on her torso. You can feel that coming through her arms.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really free to move things around.
Yeah,
As I
that's one
go.
thing I've been working on too is my rhythm lines.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a artist named Tim Gula.
Okay.
He was explaining rhythm lines too.
Good. Yeah, I mean, they're super important. All those people that you follow on Instagram and that you love are thinking about these sort of things. Siri was asking me the other day if I think of drawing in a sculptural sense, and what you just said, rhythm lines is a great way to think about it. These are the rhythm lines of movement. And that was the first rhythm line on this girl, that I saw. I felt that like a semicolon, right? I felt that rhythm line first. And then these secondary axes of movement. But having that rhythm and that lyrical movement is going to give you a good foundation for these big color blocks, really sort of deciphering correct anatomy. Yeah. So
Because
that's
for
great.
the first video you posted, for some reason it wouldn't let me open it. So I tried to figure out what was the next thing. So I tried to, I guess it was like YouTube videos of like models modeling, but it still felt 3D. So I was just using it for gestures.
I think that's fine. I mean, you know, in this situation, it's not the worst thing ever. You know, ideally, I'd still like you guys to be working from life when you can.
Like I
But
tried
to
to
think
do,
about
I
it
think,
3D and to do gestures, I think finding those websites are a good option. I wouldn't say it's the best option, but I do think it's a good option. It will help you just decipher some of these terms that we're thinking about. So I'm glad you were resourceful. I will try. I downloaded my video, so maybe I can just email it to you or try something again, Mike. If anybody else had any trouble viewing the first video, please send me an email, contact me. I have it recorded, so I will send it to you.
So,
And
because
I'll
for
make
the most
sure
part,
I'll get that to you, okay, Mike?
okay, for the most part, I just been trying to, I guess, draw things like I'm uncomfortable with, like my hands, like just looking at my hands and feeling it. I guess, like how the artist you sent us the video of, how he said feeling the shape and you can feel the form, feel it take form.
I think that's great. And I think having lots of hand and feet and head studies is important. It's like one other element of this bag of skills that we need. Because they're complicated. Hands are complicated, feet are complicated. Of course, those are the things that people say they need most help with. And we will cover some hands and feet. I have a couple of tidbits and tricks that I talk about and I share with you guys, but you kind of hit the nail on the head, Mike. The best way to get better at hands and feet is to look at your own hands and feet and to do a bunch of drawings. What I like to push in this class is because usually students are pretty motivated to do that for themselves. But as you hear, what I try and push in this class is this, a whole figure under control within this rectilinear frame. Because it's very hard, as you know, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the basis of designing our own paintings, our own images eventually. And it's really important. It's really important to start cultivating that sense of design for yourself. What makes you your own unique designer and artist. So.
And I think on Tuesday nights, it was somebody who came to my job, well, here, and told me that it's a place by USC where they do live model drawings, and you would pay $3, and everybody that shows up, the money would go to the model.
I think that's great.
So I don't know if they still do that type of thing. I didn't know if you heard of that or not.
You might be talking it's called About Face. Does that
that's
sound
it.
familiar? About Face?
That's it.
And I'll just speak briefly to the class, Mike. About Face is a model organization. Last I heard, though, they weren't running because of COVID. They are?
They're not.
They're not. Yep, see, Siri knows, she's in the loop. They're not running right now. But it is a great resource, hopefully when things normalize again. You can go in and pay and have time with the model for a pretty minimal fee. I think it's great. I think it's great for art students to model for each other, take some turns modeling. There's lots of resources and this is, again, a crazy moment in our world, but hopefully when things get back to normal, there'll be those resources. And, I've been talking to Gina. I'm hoping we can do some sort of model workshop to make up some of these missed live opportunities. And Mike, I know you're a serious guy and you really appreciate the figure, so we'll work on it for you, okay?
Okay.
All right, well, Siri, you can keep, what time is it? It's 2:56. We're done at 3:30 and I'll take a few minutes to clean up. So can we do a 25-minute session, Siri, for the last one? Okay, so I'll do one more session with Siri.
Okay.
Take your time, though, dear. And that will kind of wrap us up. Do you have any questions about this drawing, Mike? And this is really helpful for your peers. I'm sure that they could hear some of this dialogue. So please, is there any questions or anything you're thinking of in relation to this drawing process?
Not really, just, watching you draw it explained a lot.
Is it helping? I mean, I know a lot of people probably aren't used to drawing figures in this painterly way. And the easiest thing or the best thing I can say about this process is that it's very forgiving, right? Like I can really move things around. I can really sort of put those puzzle pieces together. And it's not about having to be perfect with a line drawing. And you guys are seeing, I'm changing things and moving things around. Like I wanted to move that foot. So it's very easy for me to do that. And it's just, It's just a good way to work with figurative drawing, I think, because it allows for development, really. That's in a nutshell. Working like this allows for greater development versus just trying to take your stab at it with line and pencil, you know? All right, well, so like, here's some example. There's some of my charcoal that I haven't worked in yet. You can see this compressed charcoal is more velvety. It's got kind of like a velvety appearance, and it does play very nice with pastel. But it takes a little while, and you guys are going to find that certain paper feels better for you. I want to start to remove that outline, so I'm going to try and work some more darkness in over here. Get that shoulder. So when Siri gets back, I'm probably going to take a big step back and assess what I can do. This is something I encourage a lot of you guys to do too when we're in this class. So not every drawing you have forever on, right? And that's also an issue for people. So sometimes it's just got to be the best drawing it can be for that amount of time. So I know that I have one session with Siri left. What can I do in these 20 minutes to make this drawing as best as it's going to be? Well, let's see. She's still not looking super part of her space. I mean, she's looking a little floaty, like she's not really sitting on this horsey. And that's going to take a little bit of work from me for sure. Certainly getting rid of some of these outlines on this darker side would be helpful. Sometimes when I'm working with an issue like this and she doesn't feel part of the atmosphere, I'll pull a light wash over the whole thing and just try and make her part of her environment. All right, you guys, we're going to start our last session. I'm just going to keep cleaning up. And this is what I want you all to do with whatever subject you're working on. Thinking about your subject in a rectilinear picture plane and thinking about the cube of air and space within it, okay? So for now, I'm still just cleaning up big shapes. My values are very simple, like in my Poussin exercises that I've done. And for these last 25 minutes with Siri, I'm going to try and get as much accomplished as I can. All right. Okay. That looks, maybe just an ever slight turn on your hips, like your hip, yeah, a little more. Perfect. And the plane of your wrist facing, whichever it was a little more like this plane, something around there. That's not a huge detail. Yeah, perfect. Okay, excellent. Feeling she's a little long right there. Let's see if I can raise that up a bit. Gotta give your legs some attention. I'm finding today, I don't quite like this paper as much as I thought I would. It's a little, I don't like too grabby a paper, which seems counterintuitive with charcoal. But this is a little too slippery for my liking. So again, like I said, your materials have personalities. They certainly do. And you'll find out which personalities you drive with. So right now, I'm just using, can you see? I'm just using my kneaded, or not my kneaded eraser, my blending stomp to again, not blend, but just to unify these big shapes. If anything was like coloring in, it would be this little technique I'm doing right here. We are sort of coloring in. We're unifying our textured marks from our charcoal and just getting a unified wash of value so that we can see more clearly at the moment. I need a good charcoal pencil right now with a super, super sharp tip. I just found mine broken in my bag. But your charcoal pencil with a super sharp tip is really helpful for this sort of technique right here. Don't want to let my background fall to the wayside. As I'm adding some more dark darks to my figure, I want to make sure I have corresponding dark darks in my environment that I see. Always try and ground your figures. Often throughout this whole process, I will reestablish my frame because it really does affect how you see this figure in space. So if you lose your frame because you've been drawing your background objects and you've been knocking it out of focus, just take a moment, go back and reestablish things from time to time. That'll help you make decisions along the way in terms of your layout. I like this corner, but it's a little messy. It's better. Always remember to give your drawing some space, some breathing room. Always simple. And again, we'll talk more in depth about strategies for faces. I know you guys are always very eager for that. But you'll see in these full figure drawings, I'm really just sort of identifying eye sockets. I just gave her a little indication she's looking this way. That's okay. I like that. I know time is running out. This is something you guys can do for yourself, set aside, I think spending an hour and a half, like we discussed, on your exercises, and then an hour and a half on a long drawing for the day is a great thing to do. It's what I do when I'm in Italy. And it's a good schedule. An hour and a half drawing is a good chance to sort of flesh some of these things out, but you don't get too persnickety with details at this phase. I never have problems teaching people details, really. You guys have been practicing doing details for, when you first started to learn how to draw, I'm sure. This is what I'm mostly spending my time teaching people how to do, is then to put all of those details that you guys have been practicing together. That's the hard part. Everybody can draw an eye or a face or a hand after enough practice with those specific parts, but then putting them all together, that's where the true test of skill comes in. See, right now I'm working against my compressed charcoal because I was a little premature with it. But that's good. Usually you can force it into submission when you need to. It's just kind of aggravating. This is something, if you guys can see, I'll zoom in. I'm emphasizing this squareness on her hip. Her gluteus maximus muscle, her buttocks, is going to have a little bit of a squareness to it because she's sitting on this hard surface of the horsey. I can feel when the softness of flesh is kind of leaving that hard surface right there. But if you guys are ever drawing seated figures and you find, wow, my figure doesn't look like it's sitting, check that hip, check that squareness. That will be helpful. This. So I want a little bit more darkness on this side. My vine charcoal is lifting up on itself, so I'm going in with my compressed. And again, just sort of working it into the surface. I'm not worried about losing my line right away. I mean, it's annoying when you do, if you've nailed the line, but getting these big value relationships first, and then going back and perfecting your edge is the way to go. Sometimes sacrifices must be made in order to progress in the drawing. Sometimes I have to sacrifice a line that I've done really well in order to get a correct value relationship. Just about 5 more minutes here, maybe even a little less. Okay, guys, this is my last 5 minutes with Siri. Let's let me zoom in for you guys, and I'll take a look at her and just see what I can capture in these last 5 minutes. Zoom in, top this way. And down. And you guys have seen throughout this whole process, right? It started off really rough. It was just a bunch of lines and scribbles. Then it was just a bunch of silhouettes, our silhouette exercise. And gradually, slowly but surely, I'm getting a sense of form. I'm getting a sense of air. I'm getting a sense of light. I have a composition that I'm okay with. It's not the greatest. But all these things I'm slowly developing. Again, I always say that essay metaphor, right? Or I like building the house. I did just renovate a house, so I was in the building house mode a lot. And you want to start with your foundation before you put in any of your details, right? You got to make sure you have your drywall put up before you install your cabinets. You know, you have to just take the best steps to ensure the solid foundation before you start building up your details. Now I will look for another piece of paper this week. It would be nice if this was not quite as slippery. We could be moving a little quicker. I'm finding I'm really trying to work in the charcoal to get my darks. But it's okay, this is still coming out decently. You know, I'm always okay with making drawings that aren't my best drawing. I think it's important. What do they say? You have to make your first 1,000 mistakes before you start to kind of nail things. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Here's a nice moment. I really like, there's a little bit of light coming underneath Siri's heel. So getting that little bit of light is planting that foot on the floor as it relates to the shadow that her foot is making. Let's give this foot a little bit of another stab. Can you guys hear me? Can you see this little foot while we're doing it? So something I always think about with feet is the flip-flops. I think about feet in a very rectilinear way. And I always think about the flip-flop.
So you are so good because they can see you drawing, they can see the drawing, and they can see me perfectly.
I know. This is, I feel like we're doing Stone Age stuff here, you guys. I'm on a little sculpture stand with my laptop, but it's actually working out okay, and I hope for it to get better. But let's see, you can kind of see Siri's foot, you can see the foot I'm working on, and just to illustrate that flip-flop technique, right? So when you're wearing thong flip-flops, it goes over the big toe and down all those little toes. Then you can simply divide all those little toes into 4, divide it in half, and then divide it in half again. And her toe is facing me. That's kind of a hardish toe because it's relaxed, but it's also coming down, up, and around. So you can even feel the gesture of that toe. So, and really, I have other than a few little tricks like this, I have no big, deep secret about feet. Feet are hard for everybody. I think using the rainbow, the arch of the toenail, is very helpful. And you guys, I will certainly draw some feet for you and talk about these sorts of things, but just off this little detail right here. So, yeah, there we go. Look at that. You can see it. So you can see this thong idea, flip-flop, big toe, little toes, divide in half, divide in half, divide in half, curve of the big toenail. There's Siri again, there's me, there's the drawing. And we're getting, so these are our last few minutes. With Siri, I'll talk a little bit more. Yeah, there's some things that are going well with this. I would be happy to continue working on it. I'm happy not to continue working on it and just have this be my 2-hour observation of Siri in this pose. I think that is always wonderful to do. These little quick things are very helpful. But as far as what I could capture from her today, I think we're pretty good. Not perfect, but we're getting there. In this class, we do build up. So I always do small drawings like this for a good long while, and then we build up to multiple day sessions. Because we only have the model once a week, we're going to do things a little bit differently. But eventually I'll start doing longer drawings just so you can see, okay, You've seen the first steps, you've seen these kind of middle steps. How do we keep going from here, right? All right, Siri, I think that's probably good for today with you. If you'll just wait for 1 minute, I'll end with these guys. All right, you guys. So I hope everything was very clear for what I'm expecting from you. If you didn't do your first week, I should say second week, but that first session with Siri being filmed, you have your gesture sketches to do. And then you have this week's exercises, which are your silhouette exercises. Again, I want you guys to sort of just arbitrarily work on these things. I'm not saying you need 50 of these and you need 60 of these, but I want to see 5 pages of evidence that you've been working on these concepts, okay? This is your sketchbook. This is supposed to be like your artistic journal. Now, what I do want you to be very thorough with, and what I expect, is then that long drawing for the day, right? So every day, doing a drawing that's about an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours that reflect what you've learned in these exercises. So I think that concludes this session with Siri, and you guys can reach me by email if you need anything. Y'all have a great day now, okay? Take care.